This story is actually an update. We talked about this story initially from the man that was arrested in this story, but now we're actually going to put a little bit more of a focus on the woman that's involved in this story. And she actually just recently, and these stories can take a little time to really come to a head and get a conclusion like what we have now. So this is going to be an update from a story we did quite some time ago. But let me give you a disclaimer before we jump into this and talk about that baby. Some viewers may find the following content offensive and controversial. The information in this video comes from multiple sources, including court records, official police charges, news web articles, and interviews. This video commentary also contains my personal opinions about the facts of this story. The point is to use this story as a cautionary tale in hopes of preventing tragedies like these to children going forward. Viewer discretion is advised. That is your official disclaimer. And I'm getting this story from WHNT.com, so thank you for the article. And again, this is an update. And I want you guys to keep in mind while I read this, make sure y'all look at these pictures because they speak volumes. A Florence father and his girlfriend have been sentenced to life with the possibility of parole in connection to the death of a 3-year-old boy. Yalrick Zenosha Pride, who is that creature that's on the right-hand side of the screen, why they look like something freshly gave birth to them, like why they look like that. Maybe it's just the filter that's on them. Boy, they look rough looking individuals. And she even looks rough there, even in the light. She's allegedly 23 years old. And she's now 23 years old and was charged alongside an individual by the name of Blake Joshua Townsend in 3-year-old Caden Gardner's murder in August of 2020. So you guys can go back August 2020. You have to scroll back in my videos or type it in the search. And you should be able to find my video on this, my original commentary. Though Yalrick, which is a weird name, Yalrick Pride, the woman, was initially only charged with aggravated child abuse. Garner was Townsend's son. So this is dad's girlfriend. Yalrick Pride, the woman, was found guilty of felony murder for the death of Garner during a jury trial that began on August 16th, according to Lauderdale County District Attorney Christopher Connolly. Online court documents show Pride was indicted for felony murder in May of 2023. In December 2022, Townsend agreed to plead guilty to aggravated child abuse and to be sentenced to life in prison in exchange for testifying against Pride. On Tuesday, Townsend's attorneys reportedly asked the judge for a lesser sentence for his cooperation, but the judge denied that request. Both Pride and Townsend were formally sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole during a Tuesday hearing, which usually is about 20 years, 20 to 25 years roughly, just so y'all know. The Florence Police Department, FPD, said on August 12th of 2020, they were called to a North Alabama medical center regarding Caden's death. After initially saying it might have been a heat-related death, police said that they discovered Garner was killed by blunt force trauma. He was beat to death. Just like so many of our stories, and it makes me realize like how long we've actually been doing this. We've been talking about these kind of stories for a while now. So to see it takes about 3 years to get a result like this is just surreal. In September 2020, the indictment, Townsend was charged with beating and or punching Caden Garner and or kicking him, causing laceration of the child's liver, other internal injuries and external injuries, and the death of said child. According to investigators, Caden has been staying with his father in the days leading up to his death, adding that witnesses confirmed the child, his father, and others were in the area of Carver Circle the night before his death. Police said that the area is a common gathering place for the community. Emergency responders said that Caden's body was already cold, adding that rigor mortis had already set in, according to Connolly. They also reported seeing bruises on the child's body that were allegedly not there when the boy's mother dropped him off with his dad. Conley said Townsend did admit to hitting his son twice in his abdomen with an open hand, though he described other injuries, including blunt force trauma to Caden's torso, head, and upper and lower extremities. According to testimony, Lauderdale County Chief Assistant District Attorney, damn, that's a long name. Let me say that again. Wish they would just shorten this up, because they know I get tongue-tied. I think they be messing with me. According to testimony, Lauderdale County Chief Assistant District Attorney Angie Hamilton, that's a long title, said that Pride and Townsend rode around smoking marijuana while Caden slowly died from injuries in the back seat. Caden's mother said that she had many sleepless nights after everything that has happened, and Conley hopes that getting this sentencing over with will be good for her. Caden's mother has lived this for 3 years and was able to get some things off her mind today and speak her piece and get some victim impact information out there, and I think that was healthy for her. Caden's family set up a foundation in his name following his death to create child abuse awareness and prevention efforts. Donations can be made to any First Metro Bank under the name Caden Garner Project. Caden Garner Project. And I think that link that's on that website takes you to Facebook, just so you guys know. Let me give you guys the fair usage. We got a couple of news videos. Federal law allows citizens to reproduce, distribute, or exhibit portions of copyrighted motion pictures, videotapes, or video discs under certain circumstances without the authorization of the copyright holder. This is called fair use. It is allowed for purposes of criticism, news reporting, teaching, and parody, which doesn't infringe of copyright under 17 U.S.C. 107. If you guys would do me a favor and share this video, hit that thumbs up. We always truly appreciate it. These babies absolutely deserve justice, and I think that we got justice here.
Guilty. That's the verdict just handed down to a Lauderdale County woman minutes ago in the beating death of a 3-year-old child.
Let's get right to WAAY 31's Maddie McCaffrey this afternoon, who was inside the courtroom when that verdict was read. Maddie?
Yeah, Dan and Marie, just about 30 minutes ago, the jury handed Judge Self their guilty verdict of felony murder. Emotions were high in the courtroom after the verdict was read on Pride's side of the bench. Her family showed a lot of emotion, and after the guilty verdict was read, Pride bursted into tears and began mumbling.
Hey, Blake, no, he did this, and they let him get away with it. I don't got the heart for this. I got kids, I got a family. I've been in love before. I was never neglected. Step up.
After the guilty verdict was read, Pride burst into tears and began mumbling. Her mother and another family member began loudly sobbing and screaming. The judge then asked those two family members to leave the courtroom. Pride was cuffed and escorted outside of the courthouse by police, and before the verdict was read, Judge Self instructed the courtroom to remain silent and said it would be emotional for one side and that they should leave the courtroom before the verdict was read if they felt like they could not control themselves when it was read. Now, sentencing for Pride is set for September 27th, and all new at 5, we're going to have more details on what went on inside of the courtroom today during the closing arguments. Reporting live from the Lauderdale County Courthouse, Maddie McCaffrey, WAAY 31 News.
A Florence woman convicted of killing her boyfriend's child will now spend the rest of her life in prison. 23-year-old Lyric Pride was sentenced just a few hours ago in Lauderdale County. She was found guilty 2 months ago of beating her boyfriend's 3-year-old son to death back in 2020. The father of the child is also serving life in prison for his role in his son's death.
They protected the murderer. Hey, Blake, no, he did this, and they let him get away with it. I don't got the heart for this. I got kids, I got a family. I've been in love before. I was never neglected. They protected the murderer. Hey, Blake, no, he did this, and they let him get away with it. I don't got the heart for this. I got kids, I got a family. I've been in love before. I was never neglected. Step up. protecting the murderer. He ain't Blake, no, he did this, and they let him get away with it. I don't got the heart for this. I got kids, I got a family. I've been loved before, I was never neglected.
Step up. Let me get them shackles.
At home, the verdict is in. After 9 days of trial, Yallyrick Pride is convicted of murder in the beating death of 3-year-old Caden Garner. WAFO 48's Aria Ponce has been following this trial for 9 days now and has more on the impact this verdict has had on 2 families.
Time now 5:02, guilty. That's the verdict handed down to a Lauderdale County woman just an hour ago in the beating death of a 3-year-old child. 23-year-old Yallyrick Pride was convicted of felony murder.
The jury agreed with prosecutors that she killed little Caden Garner, her boyfriend's child. Let's get right over to Way 31's Maddie McCaffrey, who is inside the courtroom when that verdict was read.
Yeah, once the guilty verdict was read, Yallyrick Pride burst into tears along with her mother and family members. As police were escorting Pride out in handcuffs, she was hysterically screaming, and the judge asked Pride's mother and another family member to leave the courtroom during their outburst.
I'm right now, God, asking you, God, if you would just to give us a little peace, Father God, that just stays with me right now, God. That's what we need most of all, Father God, peace that surpasses all understanding.
For Caden Garner's mother and family, day 9 of this trial began with the prayer vigil prior to going into the courtroom to hear closing statements from both sides. It's been 3 years almost to the day Caden Garner was killed. In closing arguments, the state said Caden's father, Blake Townsend's account of Pride beating Caden with the belt wrapped around her hand matched the medical examiner's autopsy. Pride's defense team told the jury that Yallyrick, Leslie Garner, Caden's mother, and Caden are all domestic violence victims of Townsend, and that he acted alone in murdering Caden. Here's what Angie Hamilton just told us about the conclusion of this long and emotional 9-day trial.
It's been a 3-year-long process, and they have done a lot. The defendant has done a lot to try to dismiss and distance herself from Caden Garner this entire time, and we wouldn't allow that to happen. This is about Caden. This trial began basically the 3rd-year anniversary of his murder. It began just a few days after that anniversary. The anniversary of his funeral was actually during the trial, so that was tough on the family, that was tough on us, it was tough on the investigators, but today we got justice for Caden.
And Pride will receive her sentence on September 27th back in this courtroom. Reporting live from Lauderdale County Courthouse, Maddie McCaffrey, Way 31 News.
Now, let me give you guys my closing thoughts. These tears that you see, in my humble opinion, are the tears of a selfish person, because those tears are about her. Those tears are about the consequence that she's going to have to face. And those tears are not for the death of this little 3-year-old baby who cannot speak for himself nor defend himself against the tyranny of his own father and dad's girlfriend. I felt the same way then as I do now, and I think that a life sentence for both of them is spot on for the punishment that fits the crime, and I don't think that, you know, they should be allowed back into society for a very, very, very long time. But nonetheless, I thank you guys so much for listening to the story. Thank you for listening to this update. It's been a long time coming, 3+ years. And I'm happy for the family that at least now they can get some resolution to the punishment in this situation. So Caden, may God rest his soul. And to those who hurt, murdered, and abused him, that I hope that there's a special place in hell waiting for them. Thank you guys so much for listening to this baby story, okay? And update. Thank you.